The wind howled like a wild animal across the frozen landscape. Dr. James Rodriguez pulled his thick coat tighter as he stepped out of the research station. The thermometer read -40 degrees, but he had work to do. His job as a scientist, studying weather patterns in the Arctic, wasn't easy, but someone had to do it. James had been living at the remote research station for 6 months now. The place was small, housing only 12 researchers who studied everything from ice samples to atmospheric changes. Most days were quiet, filled with reading instruments and recording data. But today felt different somehow. He walked toward his weather monitoring equipment, boots crunching in the deep snow. The aurora borealis danced overhead in green and blue ribbons, painting the dark sky with natural beauty. James had seen this light show hundreds of times, but tonight something else caught his attention. His instruments were beeping in an unusual pattern. The electromagnetic readings showed numbers he had never seen before. The devices that measured energy in the atmosphere were going crazy, jumping from normal levels to off-the-charts readings. "That's weird," James said to himself, checking the equipment twice. Everything seemed to be working fine, but the readings made no sense. It was like something was creating a massive energy field nearby. The storm was getting worse. Snow whipped around him so hard he could barely see 10 feet ahead. Any smart person would have gone back inside, but James was curious. These readings could be important for his research. Maybe it was some new weather phenomenon that nobody had discovered yet. He followed his handheld detector, which led him away from the station and toward a small hill about half a mile away. The energy readings got stronger with each step. His heart started beating faster, not from the cold, but from excitement. What if he was about to make a major scientific discovery? As he climbed the hill, fighting against the fierce wind, something glowing caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just ice reflecting the aurora. But as he got closer, he realized it was something else entirely. There, partially buried in the snow, was a figure. It looked like a person, but something was different. The figure seemed to be glowing with a soft silver light that pulsed like a slow heartbeat. James rubbed his eyes, thinking the cold was making him see things. He rushed forward and started brushing snow away from the figure. It was a woman, but unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin had a pale, luminescent quality that reminded him of moonlight on water. Her hair was long and silver white, not like an old person's gray hair, but shining like precious metal. She was wearing some kind of suit that looked more advanced than anything humans had created. The material seemed to be made of a substance that shifted between solid and liquid, clinging to her body like a second skin. But the suit was damaged, with tears and burn marks across the chest and arms. The woman wasn't breathing normally. James checked for a pulse and found something that made his mind reel. Instead of one heartbeat, he felt 2 distinct rhythms, as if she had 2 hearts beating at different speeds. "What in the world?" he whispered, his breath forming clouds in the freezing air. James knew he had to act fast. Whoever or whatever this woman was, she would freeze to death if he didn't. Get her somewhere warm. The research station was too far away, and he couldn't risk the other scientists seeing her until he understood what was happening. Fortunately, James had set up a small private lab in an old storage building about 200 yards from the main station. He used it for his personal research projects, and nobody else had keys to it. It would be the perfect place to take her. He carefully lifted the woman in his arms. She was surprisingly light, as if her bones were hollow like a bird's. Even unconscious, her skin continued to glow softly, providing enough light to guide him through the storm. The journey back felt like hours, though it was probably only 20 minutes. James's arms ached from carrying her, and the wind kept trying to knock them both down. But finally, he reached his private lab and managed to get the door open. Inside, he placed the woman on a makeshift bed he created from blankets and cushions. The lab was equipped with basic medical supplies and some advanced monitoring equipment he used for his atmospheric research. As he hooked up monitors to check her vital signs, James discovered more impossible things. Her body temperature was several degrees higher than normal for humans. Her blood oxygen levels were off the charts, suggesting her lungs worked much more efficiently than human lungs. But the most shocking discovery came when he took a small sample of her blood for analysis. Under the microscope, he saw cells unlike anything in human biology textbooks. They were larger, more complex, and seemed to generate their own energy. James sat back in his chair, staring at the unconscious woman. His scientific mind was racing with possibilities, but none of them made complete sense. Was she some kind of genetic experiment, a new species that had evolved in isolation? Or was the impossible explanation actually the correct one? Hours passed. As he monitored her condition, her two hearts continued beating in their strange rhythm, and her silver hair seemed to move slightly, even though there was no breeze in the lab. James found himself studying her face, noting features that were both human and not human at the same time. Her cheekbones were higher than normal, giving her an elegant, otherworldly appearance. Her ears were slightly pointed at the tips. Even her eyelashes seemed to shimmer with the same silver quality as her hair. As dawn approached, James dozed off in his chair, exhausted from the night's events. He was awakened by a soft sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the woman was awake and sitting up on the makeshift bed. Her eyes were the most beautiful and terrifying thing he had ever seen. They were large and expressive, colored a deep blue-green like the ocean. But they seemed to hold depths of knowledge and experience that no human eyes should possess. She looked at him for a long moment, studying his face with the same curiosity he had shown while examining her. Then, in perfect English with a slight accent he couldn't identify, she spoke her first words. "Thank you for saving my life," she said, her voice carrying a musical quality that made James's heart skip a beat. "My name is Luna, and I have traveled very far to be here." James stared at Luna in complete shock. Her voice was so clear and natural that for a moment he forgot how impossible this whole situation was. Here was a woman who glowed like moonlight, had two hearts, and claimed to have traveled from far away. Yet she spoke English better than most people he knew. "Where exactly did you travel from?" James asked carefully, still not sure if he was dreaming or losing his mind. Luna sat up slowly, wincing as if her body ached. The damaged suit she wore shimmered as she moved, and James noticed it was slowly repairing itself. The tears and burn marks were getting smaller, like the material was alive and healing. "I come from a world you call Kepler 442b, Luna said, watching his reaction. "We call it Keth Ara, which means place of harmony in our language. It is very far from here, about 1,200 light-years from Earth." James felt his knees go weak. He grabbed the edge of his desk to steady himself. "You're saying you're an alien? From another planet?" "I suppose that is what you would call me," Luna nodded. "Though I prefer to think we are simply neighbors, in a very large universe. My people have been watching Earth for many years, learning your languages and customs. We were sent here to study your world and see if our species could one day become friends." Over the next several days, James found himself spending every free moment in his private lab with Luna. He told the other researchers that he was working on a personal project and needed privacy. Nobody questioned him, since James was known for his independent research. Luna's recovery was remarkable. Within 2 days, her mysterious suit had completely repaired itself, and her strength returned. But what amazed James most was her incredible intelligence and curiosity about everything around her. She could look at his computer and understand how it worked within minutes. When he showed her his weather data, she pointed out patterns he had never noticed before. Her mind worked like the most advanced computer, but with creativity and emotion that no machine could possess. "Your planet's atmosphere is changing faster than your scientists realize," Luna explained, pointing to charts on his computer screen. The ice here will melt much quicker than your predictions show. But there are ways to slow this down if humans work together. James was fascinated by her knowledge, but what drew him in even more was Luna herself. Despite her advanced abilities, she had a gentle, caring nature that reminded him why he became a scientist in the first place, to help make the world better. Luna was equally curious about human culture. She asked endless questions about everything from music to food to relationships. Her people, she explained, were very different from humans in many ways. On Cathara, we live much longer than humans, Luna told him one evening as they watched the aurora through the lab window. I am what you would consider young at 150 of your years. We also experience emotions more deeply than humans do. When we form connections with others, those bonds become part of who we are. James found himself opening up to Luna in ways he never had with anyone else. He told her about his childhood, his dreams of making important discoveries, and his loneliness living in such remote places for his work. I have always felt different from other humans, James admitted. Most people think I'm strange for wanting to spend months alone in places like this. They don't understand why I find science more interesting than parties or small talk. Luna listened with complete attention, her ocean-colored eyes never leaving his face. Perhaps you feel different because you are meant for something special, she said softly. On my world, we believe that some people are born with hearts that can only be truly understood by very few others. As the days passed, James realized he was falling in love with Luna. It wasn't just her beauty or her amazing abilities, it was the way she understood him completely, how she could make complex scientific concepts sound like poetry, and how she seemed to see the world with wonder despite her advanced knowledge. Luna appeared to be developing feelings for him too. She would find excuses to touch his hand when looking at data together. She laughed at his jokes in a way that made his heart race. Sometimes he would catch her staring at him with an expression he couldn't quite read, but that made him feel like the most important person in the universe. James, Luna said one evening, I must tell you something about my people that is very important. We do not form casual relationships the way humans do. When someone from Cathara develops deep feelings for another person, it creates what we call a soul bond. This connection becomes essential to our survival. What do you mean by essential? James asked, though something in her tone made him nervous. Luna looked out at the stars visible through the lab window. My people have evolved to need deep emotional connections. Without this bond, we begin to fade away. Our life force becomes weaker until eventually we die. It is not a choice. It is simply how we are made. James felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Arctic cold. Are you saying that you need to form this bond with someone, or you'll die? Yes, Luna whispered. And James, in all my years of life, I have never felt the possibility of such a connection with anyone until I met you. My heart recognizes something in you that I have searched for my entire existence. The weight of her words settled between them like a heavy blanket. James realized that what had started as a scientific discovery had become something much more complicated and profound. Luna wasn't just asking him to love her. She was asking him to save her life through that love. But as he looked into her eyes, James realized his answer was already forming in his heart. James spent the entire night staring at the ceiling of his small room in the research station. Luna's words kept echoing in his mind. She needed him to save her life through love. But was that even possible? How could he make such a huge decision when he barely understood what it meant? The next morning, he rushed back to his private lab to find Luna sitting quietly by the window. Something was different about her. The soft glow that always surrounded her skin seemed dimmer, like a flashlight, with dying batteries. Luna, are you feeling all right? James asked, immediately concerned. She turned to face him, and he could see tiredness in her beautiful eyes that hadn't been there before. "I am beginning to experience what my people call the fading," she said simply. "It happens slowly at first, then faster as time goes on." James sat down next to her, his heart pounding with worry. "How long do you have?" "Without forming the soul bond, perhaps 3 or 4 of your months," Luna replied. "But James, I do not want you to feel pressured by this. I would rather fade away than force you into something you do not truly want." Her selflessness made James's chest tighten with emotion. Here was someone facing death, yet she was more concerned about his feelings than her own survival. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced with another person. "Tell me more about this soul bond," James said. "I need to understand exactly what it means." Luna's face brightened slightly, and for a moment her glow seemed stronger. "It is not like human marriage, though there are similarities. When two beings form a soul bond, they become connected on a level deeper than physical or even emotional. They can sense each other's feelings, share thoughts when they choose to, and their life forces become intertwined." She paused, looking out at the frozen landscape. "Think of it like 2 rivers flowing separately until they meet and become one larger, stronger river. Each river keeps its own character, but they are forever joined in their journey to the sea." James found the explanation both beautiful and terrifying. "What would it mean for me? Would I still be human?" "You would still be completely yourself," Luna assured him. "But you would gain some of our abilities. Your senses would become sharper, your mind would work faster, and you would live much longer than normal humans do. Most importantly, you would never feel truly alone again." Over the following weeks, James watched Luna carefully. The changes in her were subtle, but unmistakable. She moved a little slower each day. Her skin's glow continued to fade gradually. Sometimes she would pause in the middle of conversations as if she had forgotten what she was saying. But despite her weakening condition, Luna continued to help James with his research. She showed him atmospheric patterns that could predict weather changes months in advance. Her knowledge helped him understand climate systems in ways that could benefit all of humanity. "Your species is at a turning point," Luna explained during one of their late-night conversations. "The next 50 years will determine whether Earth remains a beautiful, living world or becomes a harsh place where life struggles to survive. But humans are clever and adaptable. With the right knowledge, you can still save your planet." James realized that losing Luna wouldn't just mean losing someone he loved. It would mean losing knowledge that could help save the world. But he couldn't make such an important decision based on what Luna could do for humanity. This had to be about his genuine feelings for her. And the truth was, his feelings were stronger than anything he had ever experienced. When Luna smiled, his whole day became brighter. When she laughed at something he said, he felt like he could accomplish anything. When she looked at him with those deep ocean eyes, he felt understood in a way that no human had ever understood him. One evening, as they sat together watching the aurora dance across the sky, Luna suddenly grabbed his hand. Her grip was weak, but urgent. "James," she whispered, "I need to tell you something important about my mission here. I was not just sent to study Earth. My people are dying out because we have become too similar to each other. For generations, we have had difficulty forming the deep connections we need to survive." James felt his stomach drop. "What are you saying?" "I am saying that I am one of the last hope for my species," Luna continued, her voice getting softer. "If I can successfully form a soul bond with someone from another world, it could teach my people new ways to connect with each other. But if I fail and fade away, it may mean the end of the Cathani forever." The weight of this revelation hit James like a physical blow. Not only was Luna's individual life at stake, but potentially the survival of her entire species. The pressure was overwhelming. "Why didn't you tell me this before?" James asked, feeling confused and a little betrayed. Tears began to flow down Luna's cheeks, glowing softly like liquid starlight. Because I wanted you to choose me for who I am, not because you felt responsible for saving my people. I wanted our bond to be based on love, not duty. James stood up and paced around the small lab, his mind racing. How could he make such a monumental decision? If he said yes to the soul bond, he would be committing not just to Luna, but to helping save an alien species. If he said no, he would be responsible for the death of someone he cared about deeply and possibly the extinction of an entire civilization. But as he looked back at Luna, sitting there weak and fading yet still more concerned about his feelings than her own fate, James realized that his heart had already made the decision. The question wasn't whether he could save her species or change the world. The question was whether he could live with himself if he let the most extraordinary person he had ever met slip away forever. Luna, he said, kneeling down beside her. Chair, I need to know exactly what this soul bonding process involves, because I think I already know what my answer is going to be. Luna looked up at James with hope and fear mixed in her fading eyes. Her condition had gotten worse over the past few days. Sometimes she would forget simple words, and her hands shook when she tried to write. The glow that made her so beautiful was now barely visible, like candlelight behind thick glass. The soul bonding process is not dangerous, Luna explained, her voice weaker than before. But it is permanent. Once our souls connect, they remain connected forever. Even if something happened to one of us, the other would carry that connection for the rest of their life. James sat down across from her, taking her cold hands in his warm ones. What exactly happens during the process? We would need to meditate together for several hours while touching, Luna said. I would guide you through opening your mind and heart completely. When both souls are ready, they naturally reach out and connect. You would feel it happening, like two puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. James had spent 3 sleepless nights thinking about this decision. His scientific mind kept listing all the reasons why it was crazy. He barely knew Luna, even though it felt like he had known her forever. She was from another world, another species. No human had ever done anything like this before, but his heart kept giving him the same answer over and over again. Luna was the most amazing person he had ever met. She was kind, intelligent, funny, and caring. She made him feel complete in a way he never had before. If she had been human, he would have asked her to spend her life with him without hesitation. I want to try, James said finally. But I need to know. What happens if it doesn't work? What if my human soul isn't compatible with yours? Luna's eyes filled with those glowing tears again. Then at least I will fade away knowing that someone cared enough to try, and you will have given me the greatest gift possible, the knowledge that I was worthy of love. That evening, they prepared for the soul bonding ceremony. Luna had James set up candles around the lab and play soft music from his computer. She said the atmosphere needed to be peaceful and welcoming for their souls to connect properly. Are you scared? Luna asked as they sat facing each other on the floor. Terrified, James admitted, but also excited. What about you? I have been dreaming of this moment my entire life, Luna whispered. I never thought I would find someone who could understand me the way you do. They closed their eyes and began the meditation Luna had taught him. At first, James felt nothing except Luna's hands in his and the sound of their breathing. But slowly, something began to change. He started sensing Luna's emotions as if they were his own. He could feel her nervousness, her hope, and underneath it all, a love so deep and pure that it took his breath away. At the same time, he sensed that Luna was feeling his emotions too, his fear, his determination, and his growing love for her. The connection grew stronger minute by minute. James began to see flashes of Luna's memories, her childhood on a world with 2 sons, her training as a scientist, the sadness of leaving her home knowing she might never return. Luna was seeing his memories too, his lonely childhood, his passion for learning, his dreams of making important discoveries. Then suddenly, something wonderful happened. James felt a warm, golden sensation spreading through his entire being. It was like every cell in his body was waking up and singing with joy. He could sense Luna experiencing the same thing. And their shared happiness created a feedback loop that made the feeling even stronger. When they opened their eyes, everything had changed. James could see colors he had never noticed before. He could hear Luna's heartbeats, both of them, as clearly as his own. Most amazingly, he could feel Luna's presence in his mind, not intruding but simply there, like a warm light in a dark room. It worked, Luna breathed, and James could feel her relief and joy as if they were his own emotions. Her skin was glowing, brightly again, healthier than he had ever seen her. "I can feel you," James said in wonder. "It's like you're part of me now, but you're still completely yourself." They spent the next few hours marveling at their new connection. James discovered he could think faster and more clearly than before. His eyesight was sharper, his hearing more sensitive. He felt stronger and more energetic than he had in years. But their celebration was interrupted by a loud knock on the lab door. "James, are you in there?" called a familiar voice. It was Dr. Chen, the head researcher at the station. "We need to talk to you right away." James and Luna looked at each other in panic. Through their new connection, James could feel Luna's fear mixing with his own. "Someone saw lights coming from your lab last night," Dr. Chen continued. "And there have been some strange energy readings coming from this building. We're coming in." James heard keys jingling outside the door. In moments, Dr. Chen and 2 other researchers would discover Luna. There was no time to hide her or come up with a believable explanation. "What do we do?" James whispered. Luna stood up, her glow now impossible to ignore. "We tell them the truth," she said with quiet dignity. "We cannot build a future together based on lies and secrets." The door opened, and Dr. Chen stepped inside, with Dr. Kim and Dr. Patel behind him. All 3 researchers froze when they saw Luna standing there, glowing like a living star. "James," Dr. Chen said slowly, his voice shaking, "what exactly is going on here?" James took Luna's hand and felt strength flowing to him through their bond. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. "Dr. Chen," James said, his voice steadier than he expected. "I'd like you to meet Luna. She's from another world, and she's going to change everything we thought we knew about life in the universe." The 3 researchers stared in complete shock, and James realized that his life and Luna's was about to become much more complicated. The silence in the lab stretched on for what felt like hours, though it was probably only seconds. Dr. Chen, Dr. Kim, and Dr. Patel stood frozen in the doorway, their mouths hanging open as they stared at Luna's glowing form. Finally, Dr. Chen found his voice. "James, this is impossible. What kind of equipment are you using to create this effect?" "It's not equipment," James said calmly, feeling Luna's courage flowing through their bond. "Luna really is from another world. She crashed here 3 weeks ago, and I've been helping her recover." Dr. Kim stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her shock. May I run some tests? Take some readings?" Luna nodded gracefully. "I understand your need for proof. I welcome your examination." What followed were the most intense 48 hours of James's life. The 3 researchers ran every test they could think of. They measured Luna's vital signs, analyzed her blood, and studied the energy she naturally produced. Every result confirmed what James already knew. Luna was not human. Dr. Chen was the first to accept the truth. As the senior scientist, he understood better than anyone how significant this discovery was. "This changes everything we know about life in the universe," he kept saying, shaking his head in amazement. The team decided they needed to contact the outside world, but carefully. This wasn't just a scientific discovery. It was first contact with an alien species. The wrong approach could create panic or lead to Luna being treated badly by government officials who might see her as a threat. Dr. Chen contacted Dr. Rivera, an old friend who worked with the International Space Agency. Dr. Rivera was known for being both brilliant and trustworthy. Within days, a small team of carefully chosen scientists and officials arrived at the research station. Luna handled all the attention with grace and patience. She answered hundreds of questions about her world, her people, and her technology. She demonstrated some of her abilities, like processing complex calculations in seconds and sensing changes in electromagnetic fields. But what impressed the visiting scientists most was Luna's genuine desire to help humanity. She shared knowledge about clean energy, medical advances, and environmental protection that could solve many of Earth's problems. "My people have learned that knowledge shared makes everyone stronger," Luna explained during one meeting. "We do not believe in keeping discoveries secret when they could help others." Meanwhile, James was dealing with his own changes. The soul bond had given him abilities he was still learning to understand. His mind worked faster, his body felt stronger, and he could sense things about the world around him that he had never noticed before. But the most wonderful change was the constant connection to Luna. Even when they were in different rooms, he could feel her presence like a warm light in his heart. When she was happy, he felt joy. When she was worried, he felt concerned. It was like having the most perfect relationship possible. They truly understood each other completely. The media attention was intense once news of Luna's existence became public. Every news channel in the world wanted to interview her. Scientists from dozens of countries requested meetings. The research station became the most famous place on Earth overnight. Some people were afraid of Luna at first. They worried that aliens coming to Earth meant invasion or danger. But Luna's gentle nature and obvious care for humanity quickly won over most skeptics. She appeared on television shows, answered questions from children, and showed the world that beings from other planets could be friends, not enemies. James and Luna decided to leave the Arctic Research Station after 6 months. They had been offered positions at a new international research center being built specifically to study Luna's technology and knowledge. The center would be a place where scientists from all over the world could work together to benefit humanity. Their new home was in a beautiful location with mountains and forests nearby. Luna loved experiencing Earth's natural beauty, and James enjoyed showing her everything from ocean waves to butterfly gardens. Through their bond, James could experience Luna's wonder at Earth's diversity, making him appreciate his own planet in new ways. They faced challenges, of course. Some government officials wanted to study Luna like a laboratory specimen rather than treating her as a person. Some religious groups struggled to understand what Luna's existence meant for their beliefs. And there were always people who feared change, even positive change. But James and Luna faced every challenge together. Their bond made them stronger than either could have been alone. Luna's advanced knowledge combined with James's understanding of human nature made them a powerful team. 2 years after their first meeting, James and Luna stood together on the balcony of their new home, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Luna's pregnancy was just beginning to show. Somehow, their soul bond had made it possible for them to have children together, something that amazed scientists around the world. "Do you ever regret your choice?" Luna asked, placing her hand on James's chest where she could feel his heartbeat. James smiled and covered her hand with his. Through their bond, he could feel her contentment and love, just as she could feel his. "Never," he said. "You saved my life just as much as I saved yours. Before I met you, I was just existing. Now I'm truly living." Luna's glow brightened with happiness. "Our children will grow up in a world where humans and Cathani work together. They will see possibilities we could never have imagined." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, James held Luna close and felt grateful for that stormy night when he had decided to investigate strange energy readings. Sometimes the most important discoveries come when you're brave enough to follow mystery into the unknown. Their love story had become humanity's story, too. Proof that understanding and connection could bridge any gap, even between worlds.